Italics. So this is stylistic. On the Yelling at Children website, so this is just a stylistic choice that we have come up with. We've decided to make the stylistic choice that names of all media will be italicized. Note that italicized is italicized. So, if you ever mention a movie, a game, a book, anything like that, a cartoon, we italicize the name. Here's my example. My favorite game is Minecraft. Note that Minecraft is italicized. But I haven't played it because I've been playing Elden Ring, also italicized. Anytime we mention a name of a piece of media, we italicize it. Nice and simple, stylistic choice for our website. Semicolons. Semicolons are dying punctuation marks, so let's bring them back at Yelling at Children. Got to go through 3 different rules. The first one is the one that you're probably going to use the most often. And this is that semicolons are used to narrow the gap between 2 closely related sentences or 2 closely related independent clauses. So, let's have a look. The article is ready to be published, full stop. Clause. Subject, article, verb, was ready, and the predicate is was ready to be published. So that's our predicate. Was is our verb. I don't know if the verb group of was ready. It doesn't really matter in this overall sense of things. There's our subject, our predicate, so we know there's our first clause. Okay. Now, second clause, the editing process had been followed perfectly. Editing process is our subject. Had been followed perfectly. Had been's our verb, so we know that this is our predicate. So we've got 2 independent clauses or simple sentences. Now, the article was ready to publish. The editing process had been followed perfectly. They're very closely related. In fact, the second one explains why the one is ready to be published. And so here we can actually use a semicolon. And now I'm actually looking at it. I'm thinking this might actually be a colon, but the idea is there, okay? It's the idea that you want to bring them grammatically closer together. And so that's where you might replace the full stop with a semicolon. Do not capitalize the next word though, okay? Because it's connected to the first one. So there you go. First semicolon rule. Second semicolon rule. This is when you're using words like however, namely, therefore. And this is when you're going to introduce a complete sentence. And it's important that this word also should be followed by a comma. So let's look at our example again. The website was a great success. However, semicolon. However, comma. There were many students who never published a single article. It was actually really sad the amount of students who never actually got an article up last year. I think it says something about the work ethic, says something about how driven they were, how dedicated they were. So let's make sure that you're not one of those that doesn't even get to make it into the fall and that just gets deleted from the site altogether. So here we go. Subject, the website, verb, was a great success, predicate, okay? So the predicate tells us the website was a great success. There's our first clause. Here's our next complete sentence. There were many students who never published a single article. There were many students is our subject. Published is our verb. Who never published our verb group, a single article. So there's our predicate. So we know this is a complete sentence. So we can use however, semicolon before, however, and comma to link this one to this one. Semicolon rule 2. The last one very rarely gets used, and this is a rule around clarification, or it's about writing is a way of communicating. We want to make sure that people understand us when we write. And so this one is really just upgrading the listing comma. And we do that if there's going to be confusion because the items have commas in them. So let's go to our examples. This is the best way to learn. The website got the most hits from Melbourne, Australia, and this is actually true. I had a quick look when I was writing this. This is our first item. Our first item is Melbourne. Apologies. Our first item is Melbourne, Australia. So it's got a comma in it. Our second one is Ashland in the USA. That's where our second amount of hits come from. You notice that item also has a comma separating the town or the city from the country. Our third biggest hits comes from Mardin in Pakistan. Comma separating the city from the country. And then it's a list, so we're using a a coordinating conjunction. And now the fourth most hits we get is from Kaohsiung City in Taiwan. Comma separating Kaohsiung City. That's our fourth item from Taiwan. Now, if we didn't use semicolons, it'd be comma, comma, comma. So it would look like it'd be Melbourne, Australia, Ashland, USA. So it looked like they'd be different items. So to make sure that that confusion is not done, we upgrade our listing commas to semicolons. Pretty simple. Semicolon rule 3. So colon, bit different from the semicolon. So this one, it's used to separate two sentences or two independent clauses when the second sentence illustrates, paraphrases, or expands or explains the first sentence. So that's why I thought my semicolon might have actually been a colon. I might have stuffed that one up. The article was amazing, colon. His sentence structures were perfect and the punctuation was all exactly as it needed to be. So here's our colon. Okay? The article, subject, was amazing, verb, and predicate. So what's the information? Well, the article was amazing. So there's our predicate. And then a colon, his sentence structures, the subject is his sentence structures, not his sentence structures. Verb, were, perfect, and the punctuation was all exactly as it needed to be, predicate. So, two independent clauses, we know that works. Now this second one, his sentence structures were perfect and punctuation was all exactly as it needed to be. It expands, or it explains why the article was amazing. And that's how we use a colon. Brackets, also called parenthesis. So, brackets are used to enclose extra information that offers clarification or an aside. So very similar, in fact, it's used exactly the same as bracket and commas. So we could use bracket and commas, we can use brackets, or we can use em dashes, which I'm going to show you soon. I think bracket and commas work better in most of these situations. But grammatically correct to use brackets as well, but bracket and commas I think they look better, it looks more professional. Here's an example. Yelling at Children, a game-based website, is started exclusively by student journalists. So here's our extra information. It's telling us that Yelling at Children is a game-based website. Or here, Yelling at Children, my favorite website, is started exclusively by student journalists. Here we have an aside, just giving us a bit of extra information that might help you understand me a bit more rather than the sentence. Bracket and commas, they could take it out. Sorry, brackets, just like bracket and commas. We can take this out, the sentence still works. Yelling at Children is started exclusively by student journalists. Same thing here, exclusively by student journalists. Brackets. Okay, em dash. So the em dash can be used just like the bracket and commas, but for more emphasis. So let me give you a bit of example here. Here's our bracket and commas. It is my favorite development house, comma, the only development house, comma, that creates these sorts of games. So we could take this out and the sentence still makes sense. It's my favorite development house that creates these sort of games. But now have a look at it down here where we're using the em dashes instead. So we have a space before and a space after. That's stylistically how we're going to do it on our website. It is my development house, the only development house that creates these sort of games. It's bigger. It's a bigger pause. It pulls the reader out more. It pulls that embedded thing away from it more. So you got to really think, is it just something that you're sliding in with bracket and commas, or is it something that you want to emphasize, a bigger kind of separation from the rest of the clause or the rest of the sentences? I really like em dashes. Learn how to use them. They're cool.